So you've been rejected from your dream university. You're sad, confused, unsure of how to process this and how to move forward from it. I was in the exact same position as you 3 years ago. I received back-to-back rejections from universities. I was super depressed about it. Overall, it was a really shit time. That's why in today's video, I'm going to be talking about why getting rejected from uni was the best thing to ever happen to me. I'm going to be talking about ways you can cope with this rejection, and also I'm going to be giving you some real tips on how you can actually get into uni the second time round. Hello, my name is Radhika. I'm a third year medical student, and honestly, rejection sucks. I received rejections from UCL, Liverpool, and Anglia Ruskin, and basically the university I now go to, it only accepted me a couple of hours before the UCAS deadline, so I essentially had prep myself to receiving 4 rejections. I've made a full video before on my channel about my journey into medical school. Honestly, I know how hard rejection can be. It really does hit your self-esteem, especially if you're someone who has consistently done well in school. I know for myself, I was a top student in my school, and so when I got rejected, it felt like the entire world was judging me. It felt like friends were judging me, teachers were judging me, my own family was judging me. Honestly, even till today, I am 21, I am a third year student, and even now I receive comments sometimes from family members being like, oh, had you worked harder, you would have been in London. And it's like, but I got there, I got there in a different way. And I want to talk about how you can actually move forward from this. The best piece of advice that I received when it comes to rejections and how to move forward from them is you gotta throw yourself into your work. It's kind of toxic, but it does work, and hear me out. The thing is, right now, you might not have many other options. The UCAS deadline might have already passed, and you have to essentially wait until the next academic year until you can make your decisions again the second time round. It's important to actually not let this academic year go to waste. The last thing you want to do on a gap year, if that's what you end up doing, is having to resit exams and do A-levels or other uni exams if you're a postgrad student. It's really difficult, especially when you're not in school and you don't have school support. So make sure you're throwing yourself into your work. I'm speaking from the perspective of like a young student. When I was 18, that's exactly what I did. I studied so hard for my A-levels. I did so many past papers. I did so much revision from the textbook, and I really knew my concepts inside and out. I would argue I studied more back then than I do now as a uni student. And the reason for that was because the rejection was basically the only motivation I had in my life. You can also ask the university for feedback. There's no harm in asking them for it. A lot of the times they actually do give you some feedback on why your application was rejected. Asking them why you got rejected is actually a really, really good thing because it teaches you what to avoid and it teaches you what not to do the second time round. The other thing I would say is if the university that you really want to go to has a waiting list and you've been rejected, ask them how many people are on the waiting list and ask them if you can find out what your position would be on the waiting list. A really good place to find information about these sorts of statistics is the Reddit and the student room. Don't fall down the rabbit holes on those forums, but they actually can be really good for finding out information. There's a really big reason behind why I'm talking about throwing yourself into work. I have so many friends and I've heard so many stories of people actually getting into uni on results day because they had the grades. They might have had 4 rejections and they might have been super prepped emotionally to taking a gap year. But if you get your A-level grades for the course you wanted to do on results day, there is no shame in calling up the admissions team and asking them if they have any spaces. I think people make the mistake of forgetting that just because someone has an offer in your school, that doesn't mean that person's gonna get in. I know that sounds bad, but it's true, and it's a very real thing for universities to consider. They give out loads of offers, but not everyone gets their A-level grades. Some people might fail exams, some people might miss out just because of one grade, and so if you get the grades that you need, you could actually get in because someone else didn't. This has happened for quite a few people that I know, especially for some reason for my university's course. I go to Queen's Belfast and it's not unheard of where people get in to medicine on results day. The other thing that I know is really important to consider is whether or not you actually want to take a gap year. Sometimes people are very happy with just doing any alternative course to the one they originally wanted. because they really want to go to uni. They don't want to be left behind. And I know that was my case. I was prepared to do engineering, and I don't know why I thought engineering would have been a good choice for me, but I really didn't want to be left behind in my small city whilst everyone in my school went off to uni. Please do not make the mistake of doing a course just because you want to say you go to uni when you know yourself that you're not cut out for that course. Honestly, you're going to make yourself even more unhappy, you're going to be in even more debt, and you're going to be further behind in your career if you think about it. It is much better to take 1 year out to focus solely on an application and getting into the course you actually want to do than doing a course you don't want to do just because you want to say you go to uni. And honestly, if you are doing a gap year, then doing a gap year without the pressure of having to do well in exams because essentially you've already got your grades in the bag, it actually can be pretty good, because once you're done your application and you've sent it off, you have the rest of the year to save up for uni and to work on yourself and to do something with your time. So now that we've talked a little bit about rejection, let me talk about why, from my own experience, it was the best thing to ever happen. It really gave me a kick up the arse. I can't even word it any better other than that. It really forced me to reflect on areas where I maybe was like a little bit more arrogant and overconfident in my own abilities. Like, I look back and I'm just sitting there thinking, girl, why were you applying to university in London? I did not have the aptitude test scores to apply to medicine at UCL. And that was a gamble I took, and I knew I would get rejected, and I did. I mean, totally my fault. But if I was to do that again, I would not even think about applying somewhere where I knew I wouldn't get in. If you have made mistakes throughout this UCAS application process, and you can honestly say that you have made mistakes, it's really important to not make those ones again. Therefore, really take the time to consider why you're not going to uni this year. And I know this requires a lot of thinking and sort of maybe a little bit of soul searching, but it is worth it. I applied for medicine, and it's similar if you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge. The interview process and the aptitude test process is pretty rigorous, and for me, where I fell short was the aptitude tests. I just don't do very well in that type of test, and unfortunately, because I didn't do well in those tests, it severely impacted the rest of my application. That's essentially why I got rejected. And so I knew that if I was going to do it again, I really needed to nail the aptitude tests. But I knew for myself that there was no way I could do all of this again with exams. Hence why I pushed myself to do really well, and I got 3 A stars in my A levels. If you are thinking about taking a gap year, the really big thing I want to hit home with this short video is you need to know your timeline. For example, for medicine, the summer is pretty much spent on preparing for the UCAT. And then once you do your aptitude test, you're thinking of, okay, where should I apply strategically to get in? Then after you send off your personal statement and you submit your application, you're spending time doing interview work and also potentially working on your CV, and if you have exams, studying for exams. If, for example, your course had interviews and you didn't do very well at the interview, is it because you didn't really have that much life experience to talk about? I would say, and I've done plenty of videos about preparing for interviews, it's not about the life experience, but it's about how you communicate it. Potentially getting a job where you have to communicate and where you're forced to talk to people every single day will actually help with your interview skills. Plus, you'll make more money for when you actually go to uni. I know I keep talking about medicine, but it's just the one I know the most. If you're thinking of applying for medicine or any other allied health professional course, a really good place to start is by working in a care home or by working as a healthcare assistant. Coming up with a solid revision schedule is also really worthwhile. You still have time to do really well in your exams. If you haven't started studying yet, get off YouTube. I don't even care if you click off this video. Get off YouTube and go study. Seriously, it'll actually help boost your chances of potentially getting the grades you need. And finally, the last thing to remember, especially when it comes to rejection, and from my own personal experience, it is that it does not define you at all. You made a mistake. We're allowed to make mistakes. We're only human. And if I could go back and tell my 18-year-old self something, I would say, you're only 18. You're only 18. And even now, if I make a mistake, I'm only 21. I'm allowed to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. It doesn't define me. I think, and I can say again from like an Asian perspective, I feel like our communities are really hard on themselves. It's really sad. Like I have a lot of Asian viewers, and that's why I feel so comfortable saying this. I'm sorry, log kya kahenge? What will people say? It's not in. Don't let someone else's opinion of you, or you're thinking, oh, what will people say, or this auntie's gonna say this, etc. It doesn't matter. Just let it go. You have so much time to get to where you want to be in life. It is not a race and it's not a competition. And I really wish I had been able to like internalize that thought. I'll be really honest and say that the university I ended up going to, so I study in Belfast, I live 2 hours away from home. I didn't want to study here. Really, I really wanted to go to England, preferably London. It's actually been really nice to not have moved, and it's also been really nice to have had a completely different career path. Like I am doing things that I never thought I would be doing, and I might have limited opportunities available right now, but that doesn't mean I'll always be here. And that's what you need to tell yourself. You're not always going to be where you are right now. So it's good to just take each month as it comes. I hate the saying of take each day as it comes. Take each month as it comes. And if you know your dates and you know, okay, I need to have this done by this date, then trust me, time will not only fly, but you'll have actually done so much. Don't let the rejection influence you and influence your outlook on everything in your life. It's just a part of your life. It's not your life, so don't make it your life. I hope this video helped. If you are going through a university rejection or rejections, I understand from my own personal experience that it is really, really hard, and I genuinely do have a lot of empathy. If you have any questions, you can comment down below, or if you want to actually DM me, you can DM me. My Instagram is linked down below as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon for another video. Bye!